we are going to have a beta, the Break It Early test application. Because evidently, these online games are hard. They can have some nasty issues. I read on the internet that our games have had a few bugs. I did. I read it on the internet, so it's true. And that sometimes it doesn't just work.
Theme song. This is the Motion Pixels podcast. I'm your co-host, August Meyer. August, say hello. Hello. Matthew Rawlings, my co-host. Say hello.
Hooty-hoo!
And joining us this week, one of the badder, I say personally, the baddest boy of comedy, Uncle Dane.
It's me. Hello.
The person who just said it's me, that is Uncle Dane. He is on the podcast, and this is the Motion Pixels podcast. What's up, gangsters? What's up, guys? How ya hootin' by? See what I did there? Because we're recording in Dane's beautiful fort in Fallout as the Hootie Boys, a gang of owl bandits in the world of Appalachia in Fallout.
Yes, welcome to my, I'll have to correct you there. It's not a fort, it's a C.A.M.P, and that's an acronym. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's C.A.M.P in this game. It's basically just the equivalent of a fort, though. And this is my little side room where I sit on my couch, and I built a chair specifically so Matt could sit on it, too, so welcome.
Wow, so considerate. Thank you.
You can't see it. Oh wait, Matthew,
oh no,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say this is where all the hot deals go down.
It's
Dane
true.
is quite the merchant in this game.
I run a side hustle where I sell all of the extra crap that I find laying on the ground in this game. But unfortunately, vending machines right now are actually disabled in this game again because of a duplication glitch that got discovered again. Unfortunate.
They were disabled this weekend too. I thought they would have had a fix for it out by now.
I would have assumed that too. They might have fixed it today. I just didn't check up on the status of it. But yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything about it being fixed since yesterday. So yeah, still disabled.
I hope it's fixed so that we have random people like come and walk into frame while we're recording who are trying to buy like stim packs or whatever you're selling.
Well, I already turned off all of my vending machines, so that wouldn't happen anyway. So, but it's not like they would. I mean, the only people who'd be coming here to check out my vending machines are the people who don't know that is a thing right now. That they wouldn't be able to buy anything anyway. They'd just be able to peruse and see what I'm selling, but not be able to actually purchase anything. So
yeah, that'd be a big legal problem because we'd have to get our producers to go and like track those people down, get them to sign releases so they can appear on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be this whole thing.
That's true, yeah. So we won't. I mean, unless somebody just stumbles upon this camp while they're walking down the street, but highly doubt that that's gonna happen. But yep. Normally this is where I peddle all of the interesting stuff that I find all around the wasteland. It's like half the game for me. I've probably already explained it in other podcasts, but the trading thing is fun, and this is where it all goes down.
Yeah, so just to refresh our listeners, readers who are reading just the transcriptions, viewers' brains on Fallout, it's like Fallout 76. It's like a online enabled Fallout game set in West Virginia. It's built off of Fallout 4, but you can play with your friends, and there's this whole like base building or camp building aspect to it with like merchanting, selling stuff. And yeah, Dane, so you're really into the merchant side of things in this game?
Yeah, definitely. There's like a third party system set up through Discord and stuff where you can trade high level weapons and gear and stuff like that. And the more I was looking into it, the more I've actually found out about the real world money trading being like a huge thing right now actually as well. Like people are making some crazy like real world money off of this game. I've heard rumors
yeah.
of people making like upwards of like $30,000, $50,000.
Off of a single thing, or just like
No,
cumulatively?
no. Off of like just a side hustle of selling items for real world money in this game. Most of those items, of course, being duplicated, which is the real root of the problem. I think is that it's so easy to basically cheat items into this game, and people just sell them for $5 or $6 each. But I mean, like, you do that all day. It's like your full-time job. I'm sure you can probably make quite a lot of money, especially certain weapons I've seen going on these sites for like hundreds of dollars. So it's kind of nuts.
I've been thinking about, like, I saw some headline today that was saying that American video game sales are at their peak, like, ever. Don't quote me on that, but it's something crazy. Like, American video games are selling, or video games in America, I should say, are selling like crazy because people are cooped up at home. So
Yeah.
I've been thinking, like, you see on Twitter, there's all these people who typically wouldn't be posting about video games, like posting about Animal Crossing, and mostly Animal Crossing, honestly, but other games that they're playing too. So I wonder if this market you're talking about has been has gotten a further boon from people stuck at home, maybe laid off, and doing
It could be, yeah.
Fallout 76 trading as an actual side hustle. It's pretty cool, honestly.
It's cool, but it's also totally illegal. So there's that. Not illegal
Yeah.
necessarily, but against Bethesda's TOS. So these people usually get their accounts banned after a while. But I mean, the damage has already been done. They've already made their money, and all they got to do is just make another account. So, but it's mostly just rooted in the problem of duplicating items. Like, the real world money thing is always going to be a problem, like whether they crack down on it or not. It's mostly just the fact that you can duplicate items so effectively in this game that it makes it a legitimate business strategy, because you can get your hands on a ton of weapons that people are willing to pay 10, 15, upwards of $50 for. So you just make as many as you want. So you do that all day. Then I could see you making a ton of money.
Yeah, so what my experience in game marketplaces, as we've talked about before, is pretty much just TF2 and Animal Crossing. But in this game, like, what are the big, like, staples of the market? Like, how are people making their money, and like, what are the major things that are being sold and bought?
Legendaries, 100%. Because legendaries are quite rare, especially since there's a lot of RNG involved in getting the exact roll that you want. So people, when they find like these god rolls, right? They find like the perfect weapon. If they can duplicate it, then that's just easy money for them, right? Because I mean, like, if I ever got a god roll, I could probably sell that one weapon in the real world money trading sphere or whatever for, a couple dozens of dollars, like. But if you have hundreds of those on your account, then you could exponentially be selling weapons and stuff for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. So yeah, it's mostly just legendary weapons and armor, because those are the end game items for a lot of people, because they are so dependent on RNG and stuff.
And when you say god rolls, like, I'm imagining, as a disclaimer, I am level, I think, 18, and Dane is level 263. So I am very new to this game. Just got it this week. So when you say god rolls, I'm imagining, like, in Diablo, how when you get like a legendary weapon or piece of armor, it'll have like randomly assigned stats to it, and like the good ones are the god rolls. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there are 3 slots essentially or 3, like, they call them stars. And there are 3 slots. This was in Fallout 4 also. I don't know if you played that game, but there
Not a ton.
There are 3 like slots basically, and each slot has a chance of a certain effect, and certain effects are good on different weapons. Like an automatic weapon would be really good with it's called the Furious legendary effect, which basically means if you continuously do damage to the same target a bunch of times in a row, then your damage increases over time. So like that would be good on like an automatic weapon, not necessarily like a sniper rifle, right? So if you get like a Furious legendary sniper rifle, then it's not going to be nearly as worthwhile as a minigun with Furious, right? So you take that into account, and the fact that there's also possibility of getting 3 of those on the same weapon, and then making sure that all 3 of those effects are really good for that weapon, and maybe even more importantly, good for the type of build that you've decided to roll for your character. That kind of affects the worth of an item. And there are certain weapons, of course, that are just better than others. So if you can get a god roll on the better weapon, then you'll be sitting pretty on quite a lot of money. But if you can duplicate those items, like I said, then that just means you have an infinite amount of things to sell to people. So.
And do you have any of these god roll weapons, or are you like still
a couple
searching for that one? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'd say that there are a few things that I have that are definitely like I don't think I could get anything better. But the majority of my arsenal definitely is like, oh, this would be cool if like just this one effect was different. You know what I mean? So there's always something to grind for in the game, and that's the base of the fun of the game. In my opinion, is just grinding for these god rolls. It's just like you play the game, you log in, you make your rounds around the map, you explore, you kill a bunch, you clear out little dungeons and stuff. You look for legendary weapons that drop from legendary enemies that are just randomly spawning, and you basically just, it's like a casino. You just keep rolling it until you find what you want, and that's basically the gameplay loop. So, but that gameplay loop is like ruined, I think, if you're buying everything if you just dedicate like a couple $100 to buying everything that you want. You know what I mean?
Especially if they're like perfect, like, because like what you're saying is like what's funny is the end game loop, which I guess these two games kind of fit together in the same category, so it makes sense. But like Destiny 2's end game loop is just like this, where there's certain types of guns, you want guns with certain perks, and they drop randomly, so you kind of have to grind for them until you get it, and then when you get it, it's great. And maybe there's like one perk that could be a little better, so you can keep chasing it, but for most cases, like that gun's going to be good. But where Destiny 2 is kind of different is you can't sell it.
Yeah.
So they kind of like bypass this whole issue. It's like an interesting problem for this game, because I feel like a lot that are in this category, they don't have player vending, so this never really comes up quite as much.
Mm-hmm. And honestly,
but yeah, it's interesting.
I've been thinking about the differences between. Oh, sorry to cut you off, Dane. I've been thinking about the differences between this game and Destiny 2, because that's another like light MMO that I've played recently. And like what you were saying, Matt, besides the fact that you don't have that player interaction, like I've found that like the gunplay may not be quite as fun in this game as it is in Destiny, but just like what you were saying, Dane, like just walking around the world exploring, I find to be really fun. Like there's so many little things that are scattered around the map that are just fun to come across. Like we were just at Matt's camp, and like on top of this abandoned house at his camp, there's like teddy bears having like a tea party, and it's like, who put those there? Why are they there?
Yeah, there's see, and that's what makes that's what's so interesting about this game, where because I think Division and Destiny kind of play somewhat similar. I've never played Division.
It's fun,
so I'm not super familiar with how it works, but like I imagine it's not. It's more like Destiny, where there's big open environments, and there's a lot of things you can do in those environments, but they'll lead to more instanced encounters. Whereas in this game, it's more like one giant world that's like a Fallout map, and it has all the flair that makes the Fallout games great, where there's like a lot of just weird things that aren't important to the story that you can uncover in the map. Like where my camp is, there's notes that you can read, and it tells a story about how I think the settler that lives there, that's like her daughter's or her sister's teddy bears that are up there. And there's notes from her daughter that talk about how she's always mad that her sister's like telling her to come home to check on her, but her sister's afraid that she's going to run off and like disappear one day, and that's why. And it's just like this little storyline that's kind of like spread out in just that area that you can discover, and it's just there. Like there's no that isn't even there's nothing that will ever point you to that area on the map. If you just don't walk by it, you'll never see it. And there's tons of stuff like that in this game. Like you can find so many little like world building things throughout the game, and it's neat. It's just like it's just like Fallout, you know,
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird to see a Fallout game that can be experienced exactly like any other Fallout game, but also just be an entire MMO on its own as well. So it's neat. I like it.
Yeah, and see that's what I kind of want to talk about this week with Fallout is this has kind of been like my second reawakening with the game because I had been kind of playing since Wastelanders dropped a couple weeks ago, but I hadn't been playing it super hard. Just kind of casually getting on, and because I had a character I played the base game with initially, so I was able to just kind of do the Wastelander quests and move on, and it didn't really grab me. But when Gus got it this weekend, I decided I was going to start a new character and start like completely over. And it's been nice to see kind of like relearn the game and learn the gameplay loops. Because my first time through, my friend kind of carried me through it and I didn't really quite get how the game was meant to be played. But what's so interesting about this game is the single player is, I guess the main story is designed to basically just be a single player.
Yeah.
Like you can do it with friends, but especially like with the Wastelander quests, you can't do them at the same time. So if one person finishes it, another person won't. So the quests are more designed around you kind of just playing on your own like it is Fallout. And then the multiplayer parts will come in where if there's like a public event or something that's, one of the more typical things you'd find in a game like this, like in Destiny or something, there's public events that you can join, and those are where the multiplayer really come in. Or you can just explore with friends and find those things that we were just talking about in the environment. And it's just such a weird gameplay loop, and I'm really enjoying it because it's nice because you can just come on, play through some quests, get some stuff done, and then you can go do the Radiation Rumble public event or something like that and just blast a bunch of enemies with your friends and get a bunch of good stuff doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, Matt, of like, if you remember maybe 5 years ago before games kind of gave up on this idea, most big games that came out, like RPGs even, would come out with an online mode. Like if you recall, like Mass Effect 3 had, I don't know, 1 and 2 had it, but I know Mass Effect 3 had like a PvP mode that might have been fun, I don't know. But it was kind of like stapled on to the main game and you didn't have to play it at all. And this game is almost like a integrated version of that, where rather than having like, having to go through a menu to access the multiplayer, it's all just in the world of the single player game, but kind of to the side of it. Like you can just go and do the single player game and I could go and grind all my quests all day long if I wanted to. But then on that same map, there are these multiplayer events. There is the potential for PvP, and there is like a battle royale mode or something that you can access via like the main menu. But for the most part, it's all like in this world, which is a pretty cool, ambitious way to design this game. So I've been kind of impressed so far that it's how fun this game is.
Yeah. Wait, can we take an aside to Mass Effect 3 multiplayer real quick?
Yes, please.
Did you ever play that?
No, I never played Mass Effect.
Oh my god, dude. What? Oh, dude, Mass Effect is that is one of my favorite franchises. It's so good.
I remember when Mass Effect 3 came out, I think you were talking about it like way back when it came out.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like Mass Effect 1 was the first game I got for my Xbox 360. And since I was in high school, and I think it was like my freshman year, I didn't have a job. I didn't really have a good way to get money. So my only game was Mass Effect. So I probably played it like 6 times. And it's like one of those RPGs that takes like, minimum 30 hours if you're going fast through it to beat. But that franchise, dude, that was such a staple on my like early or late teenage years. I played Mass Effect 1 probably like to completion 12 times. And it would just be like a yearly thing where I would like jump back in. But I wanted to talk about Mass Effect 3 because that multiplayer, like it was bolted on, but that was actually like, it was so much fun. It was kind of like Gus was saying, it was integrated into the main game where Mass Effect 3, the whole storyline was like, oh, the Reapers are here and the entire galaxy has to team up and take them down. And so they like tied in the mode kind of where it was you could make characters that were of all the different alien races. So like in the main story, you play as Commander Shepard, who's just a human, and you can't be anything other than a human in that game. But in the multiplayer, it was the first time you could make a character that was like a Solarian or a oh man, I'm forgetting the names of all those races. Oh no. But you could do like make classes out of all these different races that you could see throughout the entire game, and it was kind of like a horde mode where it'd be like a squad of 4, and you could build like a class of all these different races, and like all of your achievements in that would give you bonuses in the main single player. Yeah. Okay. I just thought that just got brought back to that, so I had to talk about it. But
no, I mean, you've always liked dating simulators, so I mean, talking about Mass Effect, is fine by me.
Oh yeah, dude. Ashley was my waifu in that game. the best romance option.
While we're talking about dating simulators, actually, before we talk more about dating simulators, yeah, Matt, it's funny when you're talking about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, though it is kind of stapled on, it did have that integration with the single player that I don't think other games that had that stapled on multiplayer did. Like if you recall, BioShock 2 had multiplayer, and as far as I recall,
yeah.
It was basically just like capture the flag, but with big daddies. And I mean, it was fun, sure, but like I don't think it had anything to do with the single player mode or had any tie back. So it's cool that like they made that effort with Mass Effect 3 to have it kind of exist within the context of the greater story versus just like big daddies like to fight each other and play capture the flag.
Yeah. That multiplayer, yeah, it was rough. I think back then I was all about grinding Xbox achievements. So I think I played a lot of it just to try to get as many of those as I could. But yeah, I'm glad we've moved away from having every, single player shooter that comes out having a multiplayer mode tacked on, and games are much more, it's either
they're
big
only
single player
multiplayer
game.
now.
Yeah, only multiplayer or only single player.
Yeah.
And then the ones, and like I guess the service games like
Yeah. Games
like
as a
Fallout
service.
is more like you get all that stuff in there. And that's something that's actually like I'm trying to decide if like I'm trying to think how much staying power this game is gonna have with me. Because something that was cool about Destiny 2 was I found the game. It's really like the worst part about these games in a general. Taking a step back, these like MMO lights or however you want to call them. They're not like World of Warcraft, but they're still like very multiplayer based, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They have these really confusing gameplay loops for players to get into. From what I see, like there's like what the game wants you to do, and it has all the offerings. So for like Destiny 2, it's like, oh, you can do this campaign thing, and then you can do we have these like dungeons you can run, and there's like some raids if you really want to get into that. And there's all this stuff, but it's not super clear of like what you're supposed to do. Like the Destiny 2 gameplay loop, as far as I know when I got into it, was like log in, you'd pick up bounties at the Citadel, and that's like the main home area where like vendors and stuff are. And then you go do things that are going to get you to finish your bounties, being at like dungeons or replay a single player mission or go into the PvP arena, and then you log out, and that's what you do. And this game, it seems a little more like I'm having a hard time picking up what it's going to be. Because like right now, since I made a new character, I'm able to go through all the quests. So I have like this big quest log, and I'm going through a bunch of Wastelanders quests. I'm doing some of the original base game quests right now. But after I finish those up, I don't know what the loop is supposed to be. Because I know there's like dailies, right?
Yeah.
With like some of the factions in the cities, and there's like public events. But like, what is your gameplay loop look like right now? Since I think you're more at that end game state than either of us.
I mean, mainly it's just been server hopping to like do nukes. I mean, Josiah has been doing a lot of that.
What do you mean by do nukes?
Oh, like you can run the nuke silos. So they put a bunch of nuke silos in the game where you can basically just do a dungeon, and then at the end of the dungeon, if you have the right like puzzle pieces, like you need a nuclear key card, which you can get from a random place on the map, and then you also need the nuclear code, which normally you would need to get 3 pieces of the same silos code from random enemies around the map, and then use that to solve the code. But the code is universal across all servers, and it only resets once a week. So the people, there's just some people out there, I don't know, who decide to solve it every week and then publish it online, and they do that
that's
very
cute.
quickly, like hours after they reset it. So that part you actually don't really need to do. You can just look online for the codes, but you still need to get the nuclear code, or I'm sorry, the nuclear key card, and then you go and do the nuclear silo, which is essentially a dungeon. And at the end, you launch a nuke, and you can put it basically anywhere on the map except for like the starting area. And what that does is just turn the area into a high-level zone. The most common thing people do is that there's a special event that you can start if you nuke the bottom right corner of the map, which spawns a giant Scorch Beast Queen boss fight. And that's basically just a bullet sponge, a damage sponge, and people
Just like a
show
giant
up
dragon.
and they basically just shoot at this one big creature over and over until she dies, and then you get a bunch of cool loot from that. You get a bunch of important like crafting materials and stuff. But that, along with just I don't know, just running the common spots where you can find legendary enemies. Running it over and over and over again, rolling for legendaries. It's very much at least the end game for me has been very much like a passive thing. Like I'll usually just listen to music or podcasts, or I'll chat with friends while I play the game. It definitely doesn't really require a whole lot of your direct attention. So it's very much like I don't know, like a very relaxing game in that way when you get to the end game, because especially whenever you get to like level 100 and above, it feels like pretty much nothing can really kill you in the game, and it's not like dying in the game really has that much of an effect anyway. So it's pretty chill. Like I don't know, it's just kind of something to do. You log in, and like Matt said, there's dailies. It's kind of like just logging in and doing your homework, and I kind of dislike the daily limit that they have on a lot of stuff, because it feels like they have like an idea of how much they want you to play the game. And what are you, puking? Are you all right?
Sorry, I felt really
Do
sick.
you feel
all of a sudden.
okay? I think we need to get August some Tums or something. Are you feeling all right? You're puking through your mask.
Yeah, I'm good. I got COVID tested. I got cleared, but I just have allergies or something.
Okay, I don't know why you would even bring that up, but basically, to sum things up before the puke interrupted. Oh, that makes a whole lot of sense. Oh, there we go. Okay. You like clipped through the couch. This game. Yeah, it's very passive kind of game. I mean, like I said before, you're basically just rolling for the perfect weapons. You get to a point where you sit down and you open up a Google Doc and you write down, like, what is my dream loadout right now? Like, I have my character built, I have my build like pretty much established. What are the weapons? What are the legendary effects that would make this character great? And what would be really fun to use? And then you write that all down and you say, okay, that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'm looking for. And then you just go out there and you look for it. And whether that be through trading, which is something that I've been participating in a lot, or just manually going through and just grinding, going at the grind. It's I don't know. When you step back and really like big picture it, it's very pointless, but this is definitely a time sink game. It's not necessarily intended to be like
Yeah.
like how I view this game and playing Team Fortress 2, for example, very differently. Like TF2, I'm in there and I'm thinking about how am I going to get better at the game? How, like, what are the new like strategies that I can employ? Like playing different maps and playing different stuff like that. Like I have a completely different mindset when I play that game. But this game is like kind of more relaxing, turn your brain off, just run around, shoot enemies, do events, trade with people, just kind of basic stuff like that.
And see, what's nice about this game that I think it does better than Destiny 2 is that there's like a clear you're done point once you finish the story. And if like the end game isn't appealing to you, then you can just stop.
Yeah.
Where like Destiny has, even though it has way more years of content. So, but even with all that, a lot of it, you hit repeated stuff really quick because that whole game is kind of just like dungeons.
Oh yeah.
And PvP.
Yeah.
And you just basically grind it there. So it's like if you get someone new into the game, if they don't latch onto any of that, they're kind of out. And like they did this weird thing where it's like even hard to find the single player missions now. So that's basically just like not there. It's like buried in these weird menus. I don't know why they did that. But it's cool because this game, it's like you come in, you can do the single player, and then if you like it and you want to keep playing the game, you can do the end game grind.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you
you
stop and then you come back in a couple months when there's a new content drop. Which did you see that they did the roadmap for the rest of the year? Did you see the stuff on there?
Oh, it's got some exciting stuff on there. I was hoping maybe we could touch on some of that stuff because.
Oh yeah, we should.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm glad that they're doing a roadmap that's been like heavily requested since the inception of the game. So it's crazy. I mean, they did a roadmap kind of before last year, but it was very one dimensional. It was basically like, oh, we're gonna make an update in this month. This one, they've dropped like a ton of either hints or just straight up telling us like what they're planning on adding during different parts of the year. And it's exciting because a lot of it is very heavily requested and a lot of it's very like out of left field, like really cool stuff. They already hinted at the Brotherhood of Steel returning in their AMA that they did on Reddit.
Dude, I'm so excited
but
for
apparently,
the Brotherhood of Steel.
Yeah, it's going to be like a 2-part story with the Brotherhood of Steel, which I think is a really great concept. It's like you experience like part 1 essentially of the of the Brotherhood of Steel, and then like the story gets continued in a future update. So that's pretty neat. Instead of it just kind of all coming out at once, and then you can do it in 10 hours, and then you're done.
Yeah, Gus, did you see any of this stuff that we're talking about?
Yeah. I was looking at the 2020 roadmap. They're having like the dynamic leveling, so you can play with low level and high level people together. There's the Brotherhood of Steel stuff. What else was there? There's like a battle pass or something like that they're adding.
Yeah. So like they're adding like, it's basically they're adding like the battle pass season system that every game is doing now. I guess they're removing a system that's already in the game. Like there's like daily challenges, which I kind of knew existed because I would occasionally get them. I thought they were random. I didn't know you could actually view and try to accomplish those.
Yeah.
I've never seen those before. But I guess a lot of people are mad about it. I'm pretty excited. I'm a sucker for battle passes and season passes.
Yeah, me too.
I really like them.
People are mad about them. They said that they're going to be replacing the daily challenges with a better version. So I don't think that they're getting rid of it. I think they're just going to make it more in your face, essentially, about like what kind of stuff that they want you to do. Because the problem with the current system, I think, is that there's just too much. There's just like they're like achievements, but like there's like 10 times more like achievements than any game ever puts in there. And you get like atoms from them, but you only get like 10, 20 atoms from doing them. And they can refresh every day or every week. So like I can understand people who were using it as like a good source of atoms if they didn't want to spend real money on the atom store. But I don't know. I don't think that they're going to be completely taking it out. I think they're just replacing it with something that's more streamlined, from what I could tell from that.
Oh, yeah. That's what I meant. It's like they're removing the system they have now, and they're implementing it as progression in the season pass.
Yeah. Which I think is better, personally, just because, I don't know, most of the time, I'm sure that there were people who probably, that was like the way that they played the game, was they would open up their daily atom challenges and then do them. But I, for the most part, any time that I completed one of those, it was just on accident. Like it would just kind of pop and I'd be like, oh, cool, I got 10 cents. sweet.
So
like
when you talk about atoms, so this is like the premium
That's
currency in the
the,
game. So the
yeah.
so the daily challenges are a way to just accumulate that without spending money. And then what's the point of like having these atoms? I haven't really looked in the atom store a whole lot
Oh,
yet.
it's all pretty much essentially all cosmetics. There are a few things that might give you a slight edge to the game, which was like huge controversy when they added it, because I remember Pete Hines saying that they would never add things like that. But it's all basically just quality of life stuff rather than giving you an advantage. Mostly talking about things like the fridge. I think if you store food in it, then it'll spoil slower, and that's something you can only get from the Atom store. So like, I guess if you want to keep a lot of food, I don't know, I guess you should get it. But like stuff like that, you don't have to pay real money for, so it's not that big a deal. And most of the stuff like the repair kits that you can buy in the Atom store, you get for doing events and stuff. I've never bought a repair kit in my life. I have like hundreds of them because I just do the events and then they just stack up, and I feel like I can't use them fast enough. So I don't know. It was a big thing, but anyway, the Atom store is mostly like 99% cosmetic stuff, like the stuff that you see us wearing here. Well, actually, no, I don't. No, the only thing I think is what Matt is wearing to the left in that chair. You get that for getting Fallout first, which is
for being a sucker.
for being a sucker. Yeah,
Wait, what is it that you have that's
it's his shirt
the Fallout
or
First?
his jacket. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
like
have
the
an
New
outfit
Vegas
that-
jacket.
Yeah, it's an item from New Vegas that they give you if you're a first member. So
Yeah.
it also has
you're like,
like
the what's that called? The Republic? What's that faction called in New Vegas that wears that jacket?
California Republic.
Yeah.
Is that him? I don't know
NCR.
if that. Yeah,
I think it
I don't
is.
know if it's the jacket that they wear, but like the jacket and the helmet you get, I think are the staple clothing of the guy on the cover of Fallout New Vegas. At
Yeah,
least
like
it's
the
like one of
Patrick
more.
Mahomes
Yeah.
of the Fallout franchise.
Yeah.
I guess a better example would be like the flooring, right? Like the flooring and the wallpaper that you see behind us, like that stuff you get for atoms in the Atom shop. Like that would cost maybe like 300 atoms, which is the equivalent of like $3. But you can build up atoms over time if you're playing. Like I said, most of the time when I'm playing and I get these, it's on accident. Like you don't even have to really try to get them. So if you just play the game a lot, eventually you can save up enough atoms to buy this stuff. But generally, it's just easier to buy it with real money if you really, really want it. Luckily, I mean, I have Fallout First, which I honestly don't regret, mainly because every month they give you I think it's like 1,600 atoms for free, which is like twice as much as you pay for the subscription itself in money. So, I mean, if you're already playing the game a lot, then I think you'll just be able to get stuff from the store anyway. That being said, my Fallout First subscription broke like 2 weeks ago, and Bethesda hasn't fixed it. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like like how long has your ticket been pending?
it's been pending for a while, but they've been getting back to me occasionally, like maybe like once every 5 days. The last ticket response that I got, somebody transferred me to another department because I guess the problem was out of their knowledge base or something. So stupid. The problem being like that I log into my account on Steam, which I very clearly purchased Fallout First through, and it just doesn't work. And it also logs me out of my Bethesda account every single time that I launch the game. So I have to re-log into my account every single time I launch Fallout 76, which
Really?
apparently is the root of the problem. But they were telling me that it's blocked by my firewall or something, and I'm like, man,
What?
I have a Windows firewall, and I already checked it. Fallout 76 is 100% an exception from the firewall. It's obviously that by default, so I don't know why that would be a problem. So, but
yeah, this might be
anyways.
a good time to talk about like the. Oh no, go on. I was gonna use this as a launch pad to talk more about
just
the
to sum
bugs.
it up, I just think it's funny. Like they wanted me to send them. I think it's like a DX. What is it, Matt? You know what it
DX
is.
diag.
Yeah, DX diag on my computer. So I sent them that, and then they were like, I don't know what this is. We're going to transfer you to another department, and then I haven't heard back since then. So, but yeah, that's the situation. Either way, I mean, if I wasn't having problems with it, then I wouldn't be a little tiny bit bitter about it. But at the same time, I still think it's worth getting Fallout first if you play the game a lot. What were you gonna say though, August?
Oh, you were talking about this very annoying bug that you've been encountering, and in my short time with the game, I've only been playing for maybe 4 days or so. I've encountered a whole bunch of random bugs.
Oh, yeah.
That have ranged from, like, I would say game breaking, in that like sometimes the sound just won't load,
Yeah.
and I just have to keep restarting the game until it does. To just like the funny, like I was just playing some mission where I had to break into like a lab, and in the lab there was these Scorched, which are these like infected zombie characters, and I killed one of the Scorched who was in the lab, and then the other was just like frozen with her like head around her, or with her hands around her head, like she was like about to like freak out and like rage out and try to kill me, but she was like completely frozen, and I couldn't shoot her, couldn't do anything, and she was just hanging out. I saw yesterday a similar Scorch that was glitched, but just without a head. So like you could like stand over her and look into her body, because the head just didn't load or whatever. And I don't even remember other bugs that I've encountered, but
Too many
a bunch
to
of
count.
really small things. Yeah, a bunch of little things that are just like, how did you guys not catch these after? This game's been out for so long.
I mean, it's a meme at this point with any Bethesda game, any game that was built in the creation engine. It seems, because, I mean, I can't remember if I told you guys about, like, I watched a documentary about the making of this game, and people were like, some of the devs were saying like, oh, some of the stuff in the code is from Morrowind. Like, it's just,
the is that the No Clip documentary?
yeah, and they were saying it with kind of like, I don't know, in kind of like a joking manner, or at least like they were trying to play it off as like, this is cool how like a game that I used to play growing up, I can see remnants of the code in the engine that I'm now making an entire like AAA game on. Like, I don't know, they tried to play it off as cute, but in my mind I was just like, Jesus, like, isn't that kind of a sign of like, maybe you should start over and like not be working on something so like ancient? But that's just me. I'm sure that, I don't know, that's a pretty heavy criticism that's not necessarily original by any means, but at the same time, it's totally true about this game. It has so many bugs, and like you said, most of them are pretty funny and not really that intrusive. They're just kind of like weird, like what the heck, like what happened. But there are some times where, I mean, like, honestly, of all the things that that I could probably talk shit about this game, the thing that would probably make me quit is just the amount of bugs. Like, it's just, it really just just degrades your experience over time, I think. A little bit at a time, it's manageable, I think, but man, like, I think if I put like maybe like more and more months of my life into this game, I think that I probably would eventually just get worn down by the amount of things wrong with just like little things in the game, because it's just yeah. I feel like I'm a pretty tolerant person when it comes to like little visual bugs and stuff. Like, oh man, you can see my hand is clipping through my jacket, that's messed up, and probably wouldn't fly in a lot of situations, but I don't really care that much. But there are obviously bigger ones, like you said, where some enemies just don't have a head and they don't fight, and it's very frustrating because, like, what if that's a legendary enemy or something, and you wanted to kill it, but it's invincible and it has no head? You know, sucks.
Yeah, it's like this game, like, I mean, literally is a remnant of a past generation of games, like, because it's running on code from like the Morrowind era. But something I've been thinking about with Fallout 76, as I've been playing it, is it feels like feels like kind of a warm blanket that brings me back to my like high school days of like just like coming home from school and playing like Fallout 3 for hours and hours, then Fallout New Vegas for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Where like this game isn't that different than those games.
No.
Those games came out, about 10 years ago or so now. And like the graphics look a whole lot better. Like, this is a very pretty game.
Yeah.
There's awesome vistas, and I mean the lighting's really cool. But there's all of these bugs that you don't see in other like AAA releases, and the movement and the way things clip through each other, some of the animations you see just don't seem up to snuff with like other big games. Like I know, Matt, you have a lot of experience with The Witcher 3. I haven't played a ton of that, but that game has like these beautiful, beautiful animations where you're in a fight and you're having a sword fight with someone, then all of a sudden Geralt will just like spin around and chop their head off, and it looks amazing. In this game, you're just kind of like shooting your gun at someone as they're running towards you. There's no effect on them, on the character you're shooting. They're just kind of like running at you as if nothing were happening. And then when they die, they just like slump over. You know, there's no grace to it like you see in a lot of newer releases. So I feel like Bethesda, I know recently, I think even this week, Todd, friend of the show, Todd Howard, said that you shouldn't look forward to Elder Scrolls 6 news for like years. It's like years out. And I have to think that they're really taking a step back and maybe like creating an entirely new engine or a new way to go about these games. Because I really think that Bethesda killed it through the last generation of video games, like with PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and their PC releases then. But now it feels a little... It feels like the time has come.
People started to notice in Fallout 4, I think. That's when people started to really say, like, hey, maybe you should update your engine, man. Like, because Skyrim, I mean, like, Skyrim had a notorious amount of bugs in it, but I think people let it slide because it was, like, an amazing game otherwise. Like, it was a one-of-a-kind game that now pretty much every major RPG bases their entire model off of, right? Like, it was a great game. But I think when Fallout 4 came out, they were just like, ooh, like still with this whole bug thing. Like I thought maybe you guys would like take a hint and change something, but that didn't happen obviously. And then with Fallout 76, I think people were just like, really? More? Like, like, dude, like you really got to fix this. So I'm hoping that they take the hint. I really do think that they should just start over with an engine, because it would benefit them. It would not only in the long run, but it would just make it so that the next generation of games is like, it's like a new Skyrim, right? It's like, it's amazing. It should be, because honestly, I cannot wait for Elder Scrolls 6, whether it is made in the Creation Engine or not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm so excited for that game. You have no idea. I love Elder Scrolls. Skyrim is like one of my favorite games of all time, so.
Yeah, I think this game really nailed it. Nailed the point to them that they need to update their engine with how much backlash they got. Because like you're saying, the Fallout 4 was really the tipping point. Because like the games have been buggy forever. Oblivion was buggy. Morrowind was buggy. Fallout 3 was buggy. Even all of them.
New Vegas was crazy buggy. Like people always forget about that. By the way, like people always like look back at New Vegas and they say like, oh man, that was like the peak. But
it was the worst one.
It was the worst one by far.
So much. Yeah.
But the only reason that people can go back and play it is because there are people who have made mods that prevent it from crashing. If you play it vanilla, then it'll be impossible. It's just not 100%. A good. It's not a well-made game. Despite it getting the most praise, and it's this whole other maybe in another podcast we can go into like more of the philosophy behind nostalgia, because it's such an interesting topic to me. Like it's just so crazy how people, I don't know, they put so much value on things that obviously I don't know, weren't as great as they remember. Anyway.
Well, like where I was going with that was like those games were just so good that it was easy to overlook the bugs then, and it was also like for the time there was nobody really doing games like this back then.
Yeah.
But after Skyrim, and it was such a huge success, and it was obviously a thing people wanted, you started seeing a lot more games with like open worlds with a bunch of quests and a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
And people did it, and they did it without as many bugs. you know?
Exactly.
So it's like they kind of like, shot themselves in the foot, because they made this huge, amazing game that everybody wanted to imitate in some way. And everybody kind of built their thing and did a really good job, and then it comes to their next thing, which was Fallout 4, and it was like, oh, so we're still having these janky walk animations, huh?
I think
Like,
it might be a mentality of like they might feel like they don't have any competition. I see this a lot with big companies where you can tell that they feel like they only have to make something that was better than their last product and not necessarily something that's better than what's currently available in the market in general. And so I feel like they were just like, oh yeah, if we just make it better than Skyrim and as far as like graphics, then it'll be a-okay. Like, but they don't realize that, The Witcher 3 came out and like it basically, blew all of that kind of polish out of the water, and they probably didn't even like realize it. They're probably just like, yeah, well, we don't have to compete with that because we're Bethesda and we make, we have Elder Scrolls and we have the Fallout IP. And we have Doom.
Yeah.
And we have, they don't have to think about. I don't know. They get this mentality, I think, where they don't have to think about competition. They only have to make They only have to beat what was already made by themselves. So it's a weird little mentality that kind of hinders things like that. And I don't know. I'm hoping that they realize that they need to step it up. That they need to, look outside of their little bubble and figure shit out.
Oh yeah. Well, like, dude, when Cyberpunk comes out,
yeah, that's gonna
show. It's like, yeah, okay, so now we have a huge game with all these options that's first person, and it runs way better than your,
allegedly.
your
I mean, like, it's not out yet, so crossing fingers. I think that it'll be really good. But I'm excited for that game too because I love those kinds of games, and I'm hoping that it has the replayability that the Skyrim and Fallout games had for me.
Yeah, that studio, if Witcher 3 is any indicator, yeah, Witcher 3 had bugs, not Bethesda level bugs, but was still buggy, but they fixed them, and that game's quality was just so high.
Yeah.
Especially for a value proposition. That game gave you so much stuff for such a good, like, it was like a bargain. Like, you got so much stuff out of that game. And that, I am hoping, and I think everybody has a good reason to believe that they're going to do it again with Cyberpunk. So I'm hoping. I'm so disappointed that I've missed every convention I've gone to. I haven't been able to see Cyberpunk. Like when I moved to Seattle last year, it was right before PAX West. So I was planning on going to, I was like, oh yeah, I'll go to PAX for a day and I'm going to go see Cyberpunk. I was like, cause it's coming out soon. Like it has to be there, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there. Unfortunate. And then when Gus and I went to PAX East, in February, it was right when Corona was kicking in. So they canceled their demo at PAX East because of it. So I missed it again. And now, the whole world's ending and it's probably going to come out before I have a chance to go anywhere else. So
yeah, we'll be dead. We'll be in the dirt by the time it comes out.
Did I tell y'all about when I literally ran into the Cyberpunk developers?
Whoa, you ran into them with your car?
No, I wish.
Is that why it's delayed?
With my body. I don't know. Maybe you can ask them.
But Reddit Army, raise your pitchforks.
No, guys, stop! No, don't. Put your pitchforks down, guys. Upvote me, please. No, I was in for work. I was doing a deal in New York, and I was staying at this hotel in Manhattan. And on my walk from my hotel to the client, I literally walked into this guy. And as I was apologizing, I noticed that he was wearing a blazer with a Cyberpunk shirt underneath it. And he was surrounded by like 5 other dudes who were wearing the same outfit. And I was like, oh my God, are you guys the CD Projekt Red team? And he was like, yeah, in this super heavy Polish accent. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm such a big fan. And I geeked out super hard. And he looked genuinely surprised that he was even recognized. Like, I'm sure. I think they were just like leaving like a business meeting or something. Yeah. And I just like geeked out for another minute and then had to go. But yeah, that's the story of how I literally ran into the
That's
Cyberpunk
awesome.
devs.
Small world. That's weird.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was very, very excited about that. But yeah, I mean, if they are, I'm coronavirus free, so there's no there's no risk really that I contaminated them. So I
That's good.
don't think it would be delayed because of me.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great news that you didn't give them the COVID bug and that they didn't keel over.
Yeah, I would feel so bad if that happened.
Yeah.
But there's no risk of that. There's absolutely no risk of that.
That's good.
But
That's great.
yeah, on the on the note of Bethesda, like, I don't know, putting all of their eggs in the basket of Skyrim's success.
And the embryo.
I think they kind of
the embryo.
Yeah.
What is it? Embryonic or whatever it's called. The creation engine.
I don't know, but I'm pro embryo. I'm embry pro, but I think they basically tried to do the thing that Epic Games is doing really successfully now, where they took a big success and iterated on it like crazy to try to milk it for all it's worth and create this a successful service game. Where Epic created this game Fortnite that was like a PvE game, a PvE base building game, and the engine was so strong. They're the company that made Unreal Engine 4 at the time. Unreal Engine 5 just announced, looks very cool, but they were able to iterate on the base game that they made and turn it into the huge success that is Fortnite. And that game is crazy polished and has all these new features that weren't there to begin with. And I think when Bethesda was so successful, like you were saying, Dane, with Skyrim, they were basically tunnel visioned into their own success, saying, people love Fallout now. We're going to give them a new Fallout with Fallout 4. People love Fallout 4. We're going to give them an online experience with Fallout 76.
Yeah.
But they just did a bad version of what Epic is doing because they didn't have that great. I mean, obviously this is a very good game, but they didn't have the polish in the engine, the stability in the engine that was required to make a game that felt truly next gen like Fortnite does. I'm not the biggest Fortnite fan, but that game kind of defined the last part of this generation. Whereas I feel like Skyrim and other Bethesda games defined like the last generation of games, and Bethesda just kind of rested on their laurels a little too much.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call this game a good game. I would call it a fun game. I feel like there could be a difference there where I recognize that the game is not perfect by any means. It's not even really that good. Like there are so many things wrong with this game, but it is still fun. And that I feel like is worth something. If the game is fun, then why bother, right, Reggie? Or the game isn't fun is rather what he said, right? The game's not fun, why bother? That's the quote. And I think that this game is fun, so that's why I play it. I think that there are quite a lot of people who I don't know, they don't give a game a chance based on whether the game is good. They decide, is the game good, and then they nope out if it's not, instead of deciding if the game is fun. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, there's this podcast that Gus and I listen to called the Easy Allies podcast.
Friends of the show.
And they have a motto that they say is, what is it? Swimming in sevens. And like they like to check out and appreciate games that are like, middle of the pack. It's a 7. It's not amazing, but you can have fun with it. And I think this game really falls into that. It actually does just fall into that category. I think Wastelanders pushed it into just like, I think it's a 70 on Metacritic now, whereas before Wastelanders it was like a 50 or something lower.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's weird. It is weird. Like I because we've been playing it, a couple of our other friends have decided to buy into it. And it's a weird feeling where it's like when somebody asks you, should I buy this game? And you're like, yeah, but know this.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's something you can totally enjoy. It's just
it comes with a lot of asterisks, and you basically have to. I don't know. It's like saying like, oh, should I have a child? Should I? Well, sure, but just remember, it's going to pee and poop everywhere, and it's not going to be a fun experience. But at the same time, it's very rewarding having a child, I'm sure. So, there's the negatives and the positives of anything, and I feel like the negatives of this are pretty front and center, but the fun factor I feel is is very clear, at least to me. So there's that.
Yeah, if Todd Howard is the father of Fallout, then I wish he would have taken, I wish he would have asked for advice and found out about how much pee and poop there would be in Fallout 76.
Yes. Yeah. If maybe he would have had some foresight to put a diaper on it, so it didn't get shit all over the ground.
Oh man.
Yeah, but you can get cool diapers in the Adams shop. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna forcibly transition us to our next topic.
Sounds good.
Which is Animal Crossing. So yeah, the new update Animal Crossing.
Like we said last week, Animal Crossing has been canceled. We will continue to bring it up and confirm that yes, Animal Crossing is still canceled. Yet another victim of Corona.
Okay, Matt, before we move on, due to COVID difficulties from Animal Crossing, I think it would be helpful for our audience to know that surprisingly, against all odds, this is something very near and dear to my heart, my village is better than Matt's.
That's a topic for another time because it's Fallout. So I wanted to give you guys a sales pitch on Better Call Saul because I think both of you haven't seen it yet.
That's not true.
Oh, you've seen it?
I have. I love Better Call Saul.
Oh, I thought I talked to you. Okay, cool. So we can relate.
So here's the thing, though.
Why.
I haven't seen the most recent season of Better Call Saul. However, I've seen everything up until that point. Yeah, I think I've seen everything that's on Netflix essentially. But I know that the most recent season is not on Netflix yet, so I haven't watched it.
Okay, so you're still further ahead than me because I was I was watching it a long time ago. And they've had such a weird release schedule. I think they took a year off or something, right?
I'm not sure. I never really kept up with the release schedule because it was definitely just something that I watched super passively. It was kind of like I never paid attention to when it was coming out. All I knew is that whenever it popped up in my Netflix, I was just like, "Oh, cool, I can watch this now." So
okay, cool.
But yeah, I don't know what the release schedule has. I think that this most recent season 5 is their last season though, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Sweet.
Which is pretty crazy. It's gone 5 seasons.
Yeah, but I know. It's a great show. I understand why. But I mean, I know that Vince Gilligan is a genius, and I love Breaking Bad. Definitely, hands down, my favorite TV show of all time. And
me too.
It's very admirable, I think, of him to know when to call it quits on a show. And that's one of my favorite things about Breaking Bad is that it totally could have just gone on for 2 or 3 more seasons and gotten really stale, jumped the shark, and people would have hated it. But he decided to end it at a really great moment. And I really respect that. And I can tell that is definitely still his mindset when coming into Better Call Saul, because honestly, the show, I don't know if I would have continued watching Better Call Saul past 5 seasons. It's definitely done as much as it can do as far as I can tell. So, but I still haven't seen the last season, so keep that in mind.
So that is the last season?
Season 5 is the last season, and I think it's aired on television, but Netflix hasn't published it yet, so I haven't watched it.
Yeah. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about it was, I mean, it kind of goes into what you're saying. Vince Gilligan knew when to end Breaking Bad, because he could have kept going it forever. This show is kind of like Vince Gilligan wanting to keep it going, but wanting to do it in a good way, so it wouldn't get stale. Because Better Call Saul, it has such an interesting structure where it's kind of just it is a prequel to Breaking Bad, but it's a prequel of all of I guess
multiple characters,
the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about it. It's not just about Saul Goodman. It's about Mike, and it's about Gus, and it's about Uncle Tito, or what's his name?
Hector.
Hector Salamanca. I love those characters, and I'm so happy to see their extra stuff with them, and especially their backstory, because it's super interesting. The little flashbacks that we got in Breaking Bad about Hector Salamanca and stuff are crazy cool to me. I loved that about season 4 in particular. So yeah, It's awesome. If you love Breaking Bad, I feel like Better Call Saul is a no-brainer. It's basically just more Breaking Bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about it. Like, my favorite thing is that it's weird. Like, the show is centered on Saul.
Yeah.
Or, early Saul, who's Jimmy. But it like you were saying, it focuses on all these other characters, which, like, I think that the name almost kind of ruins it for some people of getting interested, because they hear Saul and they think it's going to be just a law show. But it's basically like the first couple seasons, it's like it's the Saul and Mike show, where like you get a lot of good, like, fun legal storylines through Saul's perspective, and then you get a lot of the more like action kind of like drug scene stuff with Mike, which is really cool. And then as they start like going into more of the backgrounds of the other characters, like you're saying, like Hector, like Gus, it sets the stage for basically how this big infrastructure was set up that Walt found himself in towards the later parts of Breaking Bad. And so you get so much variety, and it's so cool. And another thing I really respect about the show is that it doesn't do any of that bullshit where it'll put characters that make it out in peril. Like, there's never a scene where you think that, like, Mike is gonna die, because it's like we all know Mike isn't gonna die.
Yeah,
Mike,
of course.
Mike isn't Breaking Bad. He's gonna live. Like, it's not like, Saul's gonna get shot. Like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
But they put ambiguity around things that you don't know. Like, so guys, kind of the plot line of at least what I've seen in this show so far is kind of how so Saul Goodman, that's not his real name. I think you know that in Breaking Bad, so that's not a spoiler.
Yeah,
and if it
exactly.
is, you literally get it episode 1. His name
is James McGill.
James McGill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy McGill. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the show is kind of an arc of how he goes from being James McGill, a relatively like good lawyer, to Saul Goodman, the
sleazy, corrupt.
Lawyer.
Yeah, he's a criminal lawyer.
Yeah.
It is cool. And what's weird is that he starts out kind of as a criminal lawyer, but not to the same degree that he is in Breaking Bad. And that, I think, is even more interesting, because it's like, I don't know, I think Vince Gilligan probably saw this too, where he's just like, people don't want to see the Mr. Chips to Scarface thing, where it's just like, how did this nice lawyer become a bad lawyer? You know what I mean? I think he was more interested in telling the story of how did a crook become a lawyer? You know what I mean? Because Jimmy already starts out as like a scam artist, and then he becomes a lawyer because that's just in his family, and it's what's easiest for him to get into because his brother's like a lawyer. So, and then he kind of just becomes trapped in the world of being a lawyer because he finds that he actually likes it, but he likes it for kind of the wrong reasons. And him becoming more like from, I don't know, unlawful. What is it? What's that little, the little diagram where he becomes not
lawful evil?
Yeah, where he becomes less lawful evil. Or I should say lawful neutral into more lawful evil, which is interesting. Because I mean, even Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad is not totally like crooked, but he just is such a huge part of that world that he knows how to do everything.
I would say sleazy is the word.
Sleazy, exactly, and he never
was
was
evil though.
No,
he's
no,
more
no,
like,
no.
He's like chaotic. He goes from being like chaotic good to chaotic neutral almost.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know, he's such a complex and interesting character that it's not like you can just assign him a label, which is better in my opinion. But at the same time, there is like an arc that he'll end up at a certain point, and you're like, how is he going to get there? And it also starts off a lot of episodes with a flash forward into what happened after Breaking Bad, and that's also interesting, like the black and white stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It goes into what happened after Breaking Bad?
Yeah, like you've seen Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah, where it ends, where he goes and like works at Cinnabon.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, there are a bunch of flash forwards where it shows him working at Cinnabon under a new name, and him kind of like remembering all the shit that both happened during the events of Breaking Bad and also the events of Better Call Saul. So it's kind of cool to see that acknowledged also. But and Matt brought up that it's true that people might be turned off from the title alone because they might assume that it's a lawyer show in the same way that, like, I don't know, CSI SVU or something is a lawyer show, but it's definitely not. And the few parts of the show that are heavily focused on law at least make it interesting and make it more focused on the drama behind the law, I should say, than, like, I don't know, law itself. Because law, I think, I mean, you have to be a lawyer, I think, to be interested in the concept of law or whatever, at least in my opinion. I definitely think that there is a market for people who are interested in law outside of people who view it as like a career choice. But the show, I don't know, it handles that subject in such an entertaining way that I wouldn't expect a lawyer show or a show that where the main character is a lawyer to do. It's very cool.
So a question for y'all. So I love Breaking Bad. You know, I love Gustavo Fring, Hector Salamanca, very, very cool characters that I still think of, so many years, not so many years, but, a few years after Breaking Bad ended.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite TV characters that I've ever seen. However, does this show, Better Call Saul, have like great characters on that same level of its own?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh man, Chuck is infuriating. He's such an infuriating character that you can't help but love to hate him, and it's definitely something that is not even really in Breaking Bad, but they do it so well. I love that. I love that they didn't like repeat. They didn't like make a new Jesse, or they didn't make a new, they came up with completely different complex characters. And the female interest, I guess the love interest, honestly, I don't even remember her name. She's probably she's probably one of the weaker characters.
I love Kim. I think Kim's such a great character.
I don't know, I can't put my finger on what exactly it is about her that makes her so dull to me, but like she's just dull. Kind of there.
Yeah, she's just a lawyer. She's just a lawyer. But
I suppose
what's interesting about Kim is like a middle ground between, like, if you have Jimmy on one side and Chuck on the other, Kim's like kind of in the middle.
Yeah. She's definitely the voice of reason. And maybe that's why she's not that interesting to me, because she's kind of the Rock. And the Rock character is never going to be that interesting. I understand that. But at the same time, I just have to bring that up, is that, like, if I had to bring up some sort of weird criticism about the show, is that I don't know, I feel like you can make even dull characters interesting, and she doesn't really hit it for me. But
is she supposed to be like a foil to the like weird and like dark characters of the rest of the show, or
she's just kind of like his support? Like, I don't know how to describe her. She's just kind of like there to kind of give him advice whenever he's like contemplating something. She's caught up in the same world that he is, but she definitely is more level-headed. And while she understands I feel like she understands him, and she's like, oh yeah, he's just kind of like, he was brought up as a crook, and he's trying to, like, I don't know, right his wrongs by doing good, by participating in the justice system and stuff. And it's hard for him to shake those bad feelings or whatever, or those old habits. So she's not as like hard on him as Chuck is. Chuck is his brother, and he's like a stickler, basically. He's like the hard, like, lawyer type who's just like, this is against the law, and you're a crook, and it's like, there's no place for you in law. And I don't know, it's so much deeper than that. Like, there's definitely some rivalry that goes on between them just because they're brothers, and I think that they've always had a rivalry. But besides that, yeah, Kim definitely is that Rock that's kind of, like what Matt said, in the middle of the two, where she's just like understanding of both Chuck's position and Jimmy's position. And I don't know, it's hard to make that character interesting, so I'm not gonna blame the writers or anything, but yeah, I don't know. But Mike is really cool. There's the Mexican guy that works for
Nacho?
Yeah, Nacho. That's what his name is. I think his name is really weird, by the way. Nacho. What a strange name. Nacho is pretty cool. He's like he's like a good bad guy. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. So like I a lot of the characters that the show really focuses on and makes even better are like the ones from Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
But like the
Mike's
handful that they
story
do
is
have,
amazing. I love
oh
it.
yeah, Mike got so much backstory and it's great.
Yeah. Mike is awesome.
But like Chuck's definitely the highlight of the new characters where he just feels it's like one of those characters if you look back at like Breaking Bad lore, I guess, the greater Albuquerque universe.
Yeah.
The ACU.
Chuck is one of the highlights. Nacho, I don't know if it changes, but Nacho's kind of weird, at least from a season 3 perspective, because there's not as much as you think they would have done with him. I don't know if that changes later on. But he definitely is like I feel like he's one of the poster boys for the show, which is kind of weird. Like he's one of the main characters on the Netflix art, but he's also in like maybe every.
He's
like,
not
4
really in it
episodes.
as much as the promotional material would suggest, but he's definitely still a main character. And I think it's just that he interacts with him the most. It's kind of like who was that other Mexican guy that got his throat slit in Breaking Bad? He's kind of like that guy, except like he actually has like a soul.
Wait, what? What? A lot of guys got their throat slit in Breaking Bad.
No, okay, so like remember in season 4, Gus Fring was going to basically kill Walter and Jesse in favor of that other guy.
You're talking about Gus's enforcer guy?
Yeah, Gus's enforcer guy, and then like they killed.
He's in the show too.
Yeah, they killed what's his name? He's from like I haven't seen Breaking Bad in a long time. The guy with the curly hair who's like kind of nice and like was
Gale.
like a good
Gale.
chemist and helped Walter set up the big lab.
Yeah, that's Gale.
Yeah, our boy Gale.
Gale,
He's awesome.
thank you. Gale got killed because they had to kill him, and then to basically punish them or show them who's boss or whatever, threaten them, he slit the throat of his like henchman, right? And
I know what you're talking about.
And that henchman basically is what Nacho is in this show, except Nacho actually has character development and he appears to have a soul, which the guy that got his throat cut in the other thing just was a dead-eyed weirdo. So there's that.
Yeah, that guy. He's in the show too. He's like the deed guy for Gus. So that might help you think of him better, Gus. But Nacho is kind of like the first-hand man for Hector.
Yeah, and Hector and Gus are obviously they're in warring tribes or whatever. What's the name for cartels? Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, this show sounds very good to me, and
it's awesome.
I was worried when I first heard about it. I was worried that it would suffer from like prequelitis, where like you were saying earlier, it sounds like it addresses this. But like, if you know that the guy is going to be in the sequel, like, why would you worry that he has a gun pointed to his head at the end of an episode in the prequel?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
there isn't any
Saul
of that.
Goodman's not going to die. Why would I worry about that? That's not a good narrative device. But I mean, it sounds like this show transcends that and like goes into some deep shit. I mean, it sounds awesome. What I found really funny is that my dad, who is a lawyer, watched Better Call Saul before he watched Breaking Bad, and he was like, he would call me up and he'd be like, "Gus, you got to watch this show, Better Call Saul." And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it sounds really good. Have you seen Breaking Bad?" And he was like, "No, I don't have time for that."
What?
And he finished, he like got caught up with Better Call Saul, probably like season 4 at the time, and then went and watched Breaking Bad, but still maintains that Better Call Saul is better. So,
well, he did watch it
I think
first, so
yeah, it might have something to do with that.
Better Call Saul also like I think we talked about this when we were talking about Ozarks several episodes ago. But like I'm getting the names mixed up. Breaking Bad really hit a high point at like season 3 and onward, where I feel like that might have just been like Vince Gilligan like learning how to structure these episodes and write these characters and get it like a really like a winning formula. Because I think Better Call Saul Like there's definitely high points. Like some seasons are better, but I feel like it starts out a whole lot better than Breaking Bad did. Like, and I don't think there's ever. I don't feel like I think it's like season 2 of Breaking Bad. I feel like he kind of got lost with where the plot was going to go because it kind of felt very back and forth. Whereas
Season
in this
3?
show, not season 3, season 2.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
as they're like, there's like a point where it's like, oh, we're gonna stop. Oh, we're gonna start. Oh, we're gonna stop. And it kind of goes
Yeah.
back and forth. And they wrote that show episode by episode, so I guess maybe
It did
it's
feel
just
very
something they fell into.
serialized and like the that makes sense that they wrote it episode by episode though.
Yeah, but this show, I feel like it just starts off on a really good level. And I think the later seasons are also better than season 1, but I think that's in this show. It's not because they're learning like how to write like good characters. Like there's a lot of good stuff in season 1, but the later seasons are even better because that's really like the high points of all the character development of like, you know, like Chuck comes in and a lot of the other new characters, and like
It's
really
very
comes into
dramatic.
its own thing.
A lot of what's funny about Better Call Saul in comparison to Breaking Bad is that a lot of conflicts arise from action, or they arise from characters dying, or or they arise from like relationships being made and stuff like that, like kind of more big moments. But what's interesting about Better Call Saul is that a lot of the turning points in episodes are basically just like little conversations that people have, or like petty drama that unfolds, or like somebody betrays somebody. It's all very like office drama kind of things that go on, and it's weird in that way where you can be invested in the same at almost the same level in a story where nobody really gets shot. Like the only people that get killed are like people that are not even really characters in the show. They're just like people that Mike kills or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when Mike goes and does like his like his Mike stuff, you know. But like I don't know, major characters, their development comes from just drama that happens rather than like, oh, like Gale gets killed off at the end of season. You know what I mean? Like very, very, very seldom does like a cliffhanger happen where somebody's in like peril. You know what I mean? And I think it's because they realize like, oh, there's not really any point in putting characters that are clearly going to live in any danger. It's more like we should put these characters in situations where at the end of the episode you're like, oh my god, how are they gonna deal with that? Like his career's over, his relationships in danger, like his brother is like doing this crazy shit again and making all this shit up about him to like ruin his life for no reason. Like, why is this happening? all this stuff. Like I think it's great. I think that's like it's a weird parallel to Breaking Bad in a way where it's not the same kind of thing, but it's also extremely entertaining in the same kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, if it is Vince Gilligan, that's pretty cool that he's brought that same kind of storytelling to a new show like in 2020. It feels crazy to me that like that same kind of show is still going on, because like Breaking Bad is such a time capsule in my mind of like what I think of as like the golden age of TV, when like Mad Men had ended, or I think Mad Men had ended at the time, and Breaking Bad like went off on such a bang. So it's cool that this stuff is still getting made. I just don't watch a whole lot of TV shows, so I think that's why I've missed it. But it sounds like 100% up my alley. Like I love that world. Like it's such a, like you were saying, Matt, like the Albuquerque cinematic universe.
Yeah. Well,
like it is
El
such
Camino
a cool
too.
thing. Like it's so deep. Yeah, dude, El Camino was so good. I feel like we talked about that on one of our
the lost
one
episodes.
of the podcasts one of our lost episodes. But man, El Camino was so good. I was so pumped. It really just felt like a new episode of Breaking Bad. And but what's cool about what y'all are saying is that like Better Call Saul kind of sounds like it's in the vein of Breaking Bad, like in the key of Breaking Bad, but like does its own thing, has its own
It's
approach.
definitely not like a hyper violent, like gritty show like Breaking Bad was. It's definitely more focused on relationships, character development, storytelling, drama, that kind of thing. So if you like that, but also just with the characters of Breaking Bad, then I think you'd really like it. I typically get really bored by just like, oh my god, he said what, and then the show ends. You know what I mean? Like the Desperate Housewives style of storytelling, but they do it really.
Okay, you don't need to bring in Desperate Housewives into this.
Look, I'm a
huge fan.
I watched Desperate Housewives the first few seasons when it came out, and I may or may not have watched it because the person I was dating at the time was also watching it, but I wasn't not entertained by it. I mean, it was watchable at least. But what I'm saying is that it's definitely entertaining in a way that I would not expect. Considering that nobody gets fucking shot in the head or anything, you know, I'm a boy. I got to see some people getting killed, you know, some people doing drugs, you know, awesome shit like that. Car chases, fight scenes, explosions.
You know, it's funny you say that because I think season 5 of Desperate Housewives, like a terrorist moves onto their street and like there is a giant explosion.
What the fuck? That's so stupid.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but it was a guy played by what's his name? What's the guy from Firefly? What's that actor's name?
There's a couple actors in Firefly.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely more than one actor
Mr.
in Firefly.
Firefly.
Yep.
Mr. Firefly himself.
Okay. I believe
that guy.
Captain
that guy
Hammer?
moves. Yes, Captain Hammer of Dr. whatever.
What is that guy's
blog.
name? How am I
Dr.
forgetting?
Horrible
Is his name
Sing-Along
Nathan
blog.
something, or am I stupid?
Nathan Fillion.
There you
Nathan
go.
Yeah,
Fillion.
okay. Oh my god. I can't believe we forgot that.
Yeah, so friend of the show, Nathan Fillion.
Wait, Nathan
moves
Fillion was
on
a
to-
terrorist?
Yeah, he moves on to
Oh my-
Wisteria
He
Lane.
does not look
he's
like a terrorist at all.
Yeah, he's like a terrorist, and like the girls find out about it and somehow like foil his. I don't remember specifically. All I remember is like the last episode of season 5 or whatever season he was in. There's like a giant explosion on Wisteria Lane, and then like the season after that, a plane crashes on Wisteria Lane, and like no one moves. You know, after
not.
all of this, you know, hyper violence, everyone's still chilling. You know, drinking margaritas or whatever the girls
As you do.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. I love Desperate Housewives. There is a definite power creep of violence in that show.
Power creep of violence.
That's a nice way of
Which,
saying
I
jumping
really
the shark, I
appreciate.
suppose. But yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, it's like they'd like backflip over the shark, like jet ski over it. It's pretty crazy what they do in that show. I mean, Better Call Saul sounds really, really cool. And it sounds like the opposite of jumping the shark. Like it seems like it's taking a step back.
It's definitely
from-
more tame than I would have expected because of what a violent and explosive show Breaking Bad turned out to be, especially in the later seasons. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I still haven't seen the 5th season. Who knows? Maybe everybody dies. But at the same time, it would be so uncharacteristic of that show at this point. I think that it'll just end in a nice little bow where it's just like, and then he moved to Albuquerque and started his own little law firm where he had a big sign that says Better Call Saul, you know?
Dude, I bet the last scene of season 5 is
When
him going postal in the Cinnabon.
Oh, you actually wait, you haven't seen season 5?
No, it's out on television, like I said, but I only watch the new seasons of Better Call Saul when they come out on Netflix, and they usually come out a few months after they are done airing. So
because I saw, I think maybe the last episode or so of season 5, and Jimmy McGill like looks at the camera and says, "Theme song."
No.
is there a theme song at the end of your podcast?
This is yeah, there is. But this is just a dumb bit.
No, it's the bit is I jokingly try to end the podcast early by just saying the word theme song.
All right.
And it never works.
Well,
then
I
Matt
mean, we
gets
can wrap
flustered.
up what we were talking about, and it's essentially this. Watch Better Call Saul. It's a good show, especially if you've seen Breaking Bad, because it has all of the characters you know and love, plus some new ones. We're not sponsored by, AMC or anything, but it's awesome. Check it out. That means you, Gus.
We're working on the AMC sponsorship, but yeah, no, I'll watch it. I will watch it.
All right.
Like I said, I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I just watch a bunch of dumb YouTube and podcasts and stuff.
Same.
But
I have
no,
five
I will
shows
watch
that I
it.
watch when they come out, and that's it. I don't really try anything new anymore.
Yeah, ever since Desperate Housewives ended, man, it's just not the same.
I'm just into Stranger Things and Better Call Saul, and that's pretty much it. That's all I
You
watch.
guys gotta try Ozarks.
I do have to watch
Yeah.
that. It's been on my list for years, like my little to-watch list. It's literally been on there for a few years now, so just haven't got it.
The only show worth watching, in my opinion, is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh, some anime bullshit. I'm not watching that. Some damn cartoon.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's like a children's show. Check it out.
Definitely
If you like
for kids.
Kids stuff.
100% for kids, I'm sure.
Matt, but one thing I wanted to bring up is, the world, is a turbulent place, and due to COVID-19 concerns, we had to stop our fan favorite segment, A Most Notable Nelson. But I actually received word from our producers. We do have room for that segment in today's episode. If you'd like to hear who the combatants are this week.
Oh yes, hit me with them Nelsons.
Yeah, so Dane, as you may remember, the only reason why we started this podcast is so that we can eventually work up to getting an interview with Larry Herb, Xbox Live's Major Nelson, and in our opinion, he is the most notable Nelson, but just, because we love science, we fucking love science.
Yes.
We like to do like a...
Reddit gold
like
for
to-
you, my good sir.
God, I love science! But in the spirit of science, we like to do some peer reviewing and go through other Nelsons to see who the most notable Nelson might be. And I've actually just received word that although I will say Larry Herb, Xbox Live's Major Nelson, has won, he is still the most notable Nelson. The runner-up this week is Nelson Lab in the Department of Pharmacological and Physiological Sciences at the University of Chicago.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say
Congrats,
something
man.
like Nelson Mandela, but okay.
We've already
he-
done Nelson Mandela. He was he was the first.
he lost
second
on our
place
first
winner.
episode.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. He did die in
people
prison in
do
the 80s,
like
so
him.
there's that.
Yeah, I think, there's like this thing people talk about called the Mandela effect, and it just didn't make its way onto this podcast because Larry Herb, honestly.
The Larry Herb
beat-
effect is what they should call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what, we like to have fun around here, and when we do,
Mm-hmm.
we typically, it's Herb related. So, Nelson Mandela, he did a great job, great man, but he just didn't make the cut, this week, and, the first week he was featured on a Most Notable Nelson, but neither did Nelson Lab. So let's hear it for this Nelson Lab. It's located in Abbott Hall at the University of Chicago. They do all sorts of great research in pharmacological and physiological sciences. So yeah, as someone who loves science, I just thought that was pretty cool.
Oh no. Okay. Welp. All right, Dane. So we just had some technical issues. So
Yeah.
Gus just disappeared from the world, and I assume Discord. So this has been the Motion Pixels podcast. I'm Matthew Rawlings, co-host one. My invisible co-host was August Meyer, and thank you, Mr. Dane Kevin Cook, for once again joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Theme song.
I'm finished.
And one of the great things about having a fully dynamic game engine is all of this just works. I'm not kidding.